And I'm very pleased to welcome into the studio this morning Nassim Ghrayeb, who is the CEO of YouGovsiraj. That's the research company that worked with Bait.com to bring out the latest consumer confidence numbers that have been making a lot of column inches in all the papers this morning. Nassim, good morning. Thanks very much for joining me.
Good morning, Brandy.
Let's kick off straight in there and look at what I imagine most people are wondering. Is the UAE feeling the effects of the credit crunch?
Definitely. The results of this quarter in our consumer confidence index were not really very surprising. The UAE consumer confidence has been dropping for a while. It had been driven primarily in the past by people's feelings towards kind of the rising inflation, and this has been aggravated by the global recession. And so now what we're seeing is a sharper kind of downturn across the board.
Well, let's look at the figures for that. Confidence dropping for, as you say, the third time in a row this year. 3.4 index points here in the UAE. Put that in context for me. Is 3.4% a large drop in the scale of this report?
It is a significant drop, given that we've seen drops in the past two waves as well, and it's a massive drop if we put it in the context of when we started 2 years ago. Measuring consumer confidence. So one could say that 2 years ago was probably the kind of the height of the boom, and this is showing us where we've got to relative to that. I guess some of the consumer confidence was not a surprise. There was one surprise in this report, which we haven't kind of seen in the past, and that's attitude towards jobs and employment future. That had held fairly stable in the past. The drops were slight, but people were quite confident about their job prospects. What we're seeing now is quite a big drop in that, and people's attitude towards job security is shifting, definitely.
Well, let's have a look at what those numbers are. Employee confidence in the local job market. I'm reading from your report here. The most significant drop occurred in the UAE, yes. Down 12 index points, 12 percentage points.
Absolutely, and it's more emphasized in the UAE, driven, we think, primarily by the fact that it has the largest proportion of expatriate population, and these are the people that are being impacted the most with any job cuts that are being announced. Also, the UAE, I guess, is the impact of recession is most visible because a lot of the coverage through the media and people's knowledge of other people who have been losing jobs. In conjunction with the Consumer Confidence Index, we just started a consumer sentiment tracker, and effectively the way that differs is it actually looks at specific behavior in reaction to what's going on, as well as how people are perceiving specifics of the recession. And we see in the UAE about 37% of the people that were interviewed actually know or are related to someone who lost their job recently, and that makes people feel quite nervous about their own prospects.
Well, let's see what reactions you got from your UAE respondents in some of the other areas of the survey. I believe you looked as well at whether people felt worse off, whether they thought
yes.
they were doing worse.
I mean, generally the sentiment is quite negative. We generally don't see we generally also don't see a lot of movement in terms of propensity to purchase. People have had in the past always said that they will continue buying things as they would. This time we see quite a strong drop in that. What we didn't see a drop-off is when we asked people specifically about some of the items that they were planning to buy. The drops there were smaller, and really what that indicates to us is that people are not completely stopping all their spending, but we're definitely going to be seeing a lot of bargain hunting going on. From the consumer sentiment survey, we see that there's going to be a lot of downshifting in terms of the type of brands that people pick up. I think the brands that are most likely to kind of see pain initially are going to be the more premium ones, because people obviously still need to buy the products that are required. But I think we're also seeing I guess if there's a bright spark in all of this, is that we are seeing people still interested in, for example, buying property, buying vehicles, which are large ticket items. But again, what they're looking at is where are the bargains. So the kind of I guess the limitless spending spree is over, at least for now.
There may also be some optimism looking long term rather than short term. I mean, if we take away the things that people are worried about now, not to diminish them, of course, at all, but jobs, current situation, current business climate. In some of the responses you got when it comes to optimism about the future, there were some more mixed reactions, and maybe some more positive thoughts there. Around a third in the Gulf as a whole believing that the economy will be better in 1 year's time.
Yes, I mean, there's always a when we actually look at the scores, you always look at where is the spread and where's who are positive, who are negative, and where's the neutral lot, so to speak. I guess the downshifts from the positive haven't all gone to a negative perspective. A lot of people are kind of in wait and see mode, and probably in many areas those are the majority. There's still a large group of people, because there's a lot of people here who are still kind of maintaining their jobs, maintaining their standard of living, and still are seeing growth in their growth potential in their jobs, but also in the companies that they work for and in the standard of living that they hold. And I think that there is a belief generally that this too shall pass, as they say. But it's like I said, one shouldn't diminish the negative end of the scale, because that's grown substantially, and it's I guess the extent to which it's grown, particularly in the UAE, is quite significant.
I was taken by the numbers when it comes to current salaries. 62% across the Gulf believe that their salaries in the region haven't increased with rising living costs. And as you pointed out earlier, that led to some negative sentiment at the beginning of the year. Yes. Before the financial crisis started, people were then worried more about rising costs, inflation, not being able to keep up. That feeling, as you pointed out, hasn't gone away in the UAE. The numbers believing their salaries haven't kept pace is less than it was in June, but it's still high at 66%.
Well, this is, I mean, this I guess adds to the fire, in that not only is there a sense of insecurity, but there's also a sense that people are unable to keep up with with rising costs. Now, if next year we do see a deflation in some of the pricing, some of that may ease off, because people. But it's if we don't see an easing off in terms of the inflation, then this is likely to pile up, because typically in the recession there's an expectation that things are likely to get cheaper because demand goes down. If they don't, this is just one more thing that one more burden the consumer has to carry.
How subjective is that area of questioning, though? Do people ever think they're paid enough? Generally people never think that they're actually getting paid enough, or at least they don't think they're getting paid more than they should. What you need to look at is this relative to times when inflation isn't as much of an issue, and I guess that is really the context that we take into consideration. So people are in a sense feeling that they're more underpaid now than they would be if the inflation wasn't as much of a factor. In another survey that was done, a salary survey, generally people acknowledge that they had been getting substantial raises. So it wasn't that there was no acknowledgement of that fact. I guess what they're comparing it to is a perceived level of inflation. Now, of course, the level of inflation reported by consumers is not the official, but it is how they kind of feel that what's coming into their pocket compares to what's going out of their pocket. When did you actually carry out this survey? When were the numbers actually collected?
The Consumer Confidence Survey was collected end of November. All the data had been collected by the end of November. We had done one earlier and decided not to go ahead with it, and went back into field and got new data in order to get a sense of how people are feeling within the context of the current crunch.
And this is a quarterly survey. When will you be conducting the next one? Is there any chance of moving it forward because of the volatility at the moment?
The next survey is likely to happen early in the new year, so it will be fairly soon. We're giving it just a little bit of time for people to get a better sense of where they're going to be ending up, because as I pointed out a little earlier, one of the things is that there is a wait and see factor in all of this, and I guess by end of January or February and in the new year, more people will have a better sense of where they stand in terms of reporting.